Hey, it's Adam Moody, and today I'm going to be going over Selling with Story. Now, this is a book where if you're interested in basically selling anything in almost any manner, if you're interested in educating as well as forming relationships and understand that this is really the best path forward to connecting with people, connecting with customers, then this should definitely pique your interest. So let's get into it. All right, so this book was, of course, written by Kyle Gray. If you're not familiar with Kyle, he also wrote a book called Story Engine, which I highly recommend you go check out as well. And I'll tell you why a little bit later, but just leave that as a teaser for now. He's written other books, but these are the two books that I'm most familiar with. I've read as well as implemented stuff from his books as well and had him on my podcast. Fantastic guy, and really love his books. They're a great mix of educational as well as actionable and implementable, maybe if that's a word. But anyways, let's get into what this book, Selling with Story, is about. So the big idea behind Selling with Story is to have these simple frameworks to craft stories for your business. And what I mean by that is, ways that you can have, for example, literally templates that he provides, or you can read through and understand the framework he's weaving together for you so that you can use stories better in your business instead of just coming across as straight salesy. But in addition to that, the reason you want to do this is it's just a better way to communicate with people. People tune out when they feel like they're being sold to. Human beings are prone to listening and understanding and forming relationships through stories. So anyone who does this, immediately you get a leg up on anyone else. So, the third line there, talking about positioning yourself as an authority without being overly self-promotional or coming off as slimy. That's certainly one. So again, this doesn't have to be at some super large scale. This could even be done one-on-one or through emails, things like that. And this can be difficult, unless you feel like you're a natural at storytelling and sales, or unless you have a good guide like this. Okay, so let's talk about the chapter breakdown. So I'm not going to go into each individual chapter. He's basically got it broken down into three areas. And these sections are one clear message, one clear lesson, and one clear offer. And basically this is kind of summed up by one clear path to sales. Whereas if you can do these three things, then it really simplifies the steps to communicate your value and then be able to sell more. So like this note down here says, it covers a lot of ground. And again, for each of these, Kyle gives the frameworks as well as tools. And I mentioned at the beginning why I liked his book so much that I was going to tell you later. This is part of it. So for each book he has, or the two, again, that I'm most familiar with, he gives a lot of resources, templates, further reading or other places you can go to really dive in deeper, things like that. With his other book, I read The Story Engine. I had a lot of templates that were great for setting up and working with writers, style guides, things like that. And with this book, Kyle's done the same thing. So this really takes a lot of the obstacle or the barrier to people where, you're trying to go from maybe reading a book to actually implementing it. And a lot of times I know myself and other people, we get stuck where it's like, I just want to see an example, or I wish I had that framework to get started. And so Kyle's taken that barrier away. You can read the book, understand things conceptually, then take a template and just immediately implement it. Okay, so as far as what I'm going to implement out of this book, I certainly don't have the time in a short book review to go into everything. So I want to tell you what I'm going to implement, because this is a great way, one, for me to remind myself when I made this, is why I do this, about what I found to be most important or most immediately actionable myself, and what I think other people also might be finding to be of really high value. I thought that he had a really interesting note, starting with this first one, considering the higher order thinking when we're considering the desires to speak to. Okay, I think that this is interesting. And Kyle's example here dealt with the long term and the sense of healthy eating. So let's talk about that. So like the first order, or just the immediate thing, would be, eating healthy for the first time. Maybe you're trying to sell someone or tell someone about, why they should join a program for eating healthy. But, right away, people might think, oh, this is gross. I'm not feeling it, but I'll try it. But then eating healthy for a week, I'm feeling clearer and more energetic. And then third order, after several months, I've lost some weight. I feel great. I have confidence, things like that down the road, where a lot of times we get so stuck in the details that we're thinking of, what's the immediate thing, if we are trying to teach someone how to eat healthy, what do we need to look at down the road, that there's going to be these other benefits and desires that we can speak Also, I think the section on the proprietary process was really good. This is good, and it's not just about slapping a name on some sort of process, do X and get Y, but starting with specific results, really focusing on the customer, making sure your clients or customers get results, but then taking that and don't just stop there. That's great, and that is the most important part. You do need to get results for your customers, but then create a roadmap that becomes the success path. And basically, you're then creating a process from this so that people know what it is. Like I just talked about the losing weight. You come up with we'll just call it the higher order weight loss program, and it's got a name, and it's your proprietary process, so long as there's actually something there that, of course, gets results for the customer. And then into that, you can embed the stories into the process. I think this is really important for a number of reasons. One, again, because we want to tell and explain things through stories where possible. But also, as Kyle focuses on here, he says you can focus on the process because it's less than about selling you, and you're focusing on that process. And if that process gets people results, then, boom, you've got a winner. So next up is my favorite. I really, really like this. So anyone familiar with telling stories, anyone with sales, you've probably heard of the hero's journey. You might have heard of the buyer's journey, and Kyle combined these into the Crossroads formula, which I really like. And the 4 steps he's giving here is called the call, the quest, the leap, and the return. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, why do I need to, combine this classic, the hero's journey? Why do I need to deal with a buyer's journey? Because you're combining the emotion of the hero's journey, right? Explaining through a story about what's going on, how somebody, yourself or someone else, or maybe a customer, overcame this issue and succeeded. And that's an emotional thing. That's great, and that needs to be done. But then also combining that with the logic of the buyer's journey. So I think that's really important to combine those both, and definitely something I'm going to put to use myself. So with this, I think that I'm going to have a harder time with this, and that's just me personally. But I think that this is still super important. Better use of supporting visuals for storytelling and selling. And the reasons, just a couple behind this, are being that images stick, right? We, as human beings, are very prone to remembering images more so than reading a page of text and memorizing or understanding all of it immediately. And people process images 10x faster. Okay, and again, he's got some resources for this. This is definitely an area where a lot of us can improve, and this is something I'm just going to have to work on over time. I've started using little doodles and drawings in some of my material, and I based that off of what I saw that other people were doing that really resonated strongly with me. So that's my first attempt, and definitely going to check out some of the resources Kyle has and go from there. Cool. So just to quickly summarize, I think it's a really solid book that covers a lot of ground. I think it's really good that Kyle has the framework he does for his books where he ends up providing a good amount of resources, and I think it's definitely needed. It would be really hard to do a book like this without those resources. And I personally just recommend it to anyone that sells and knows, that understanding your customers is one of the best paths forward. Understanding and wanting to truly communicate. And one thing I didn't have a chance to touch on during the book review itself, but Kyle covers, again, like I said, a lot of ground. And one of the areas, is talking about these different ways that you can tell stories. Things like, really ways you can do it literally, like webinars or, sales pages or emails, things like that. And there's a section written by Catherine Jones of CF Design School about using funnels to do this, and how to actually build out funnels. Great chapter written by her. Fits nicely into the book. Again, actionable material. So again, 2 thumbs up and highly recommend it. Check out the book, and I think you'll find a lot of stuff you can implement just like I did.